Shalom, peace, face the east towards Jerusalem, Russia, they say Yerushalayim. Kol halal, Yahweh, Basham, Yahshai, Basham, Uchakdash, all praise Yahweh, in the name of Yahshai, in the name of the Spirit. Giving double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, as well as honor to the men under the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. So, this is a video concerning the raid that ICE did on that Chicago apartment complex. I'll start with an article on Yahoo News. ICE zip ties children in horrific raid on Chicago apartment building. Yeah, there were witnesses saying that they zip tied children, the wrists of children. A massive immigration raid on an apartment in the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago tormented residents, those who lived there, in the early hours of the Tuesday morning. Some 300 federal agents per news station raided the building, arresting 37 people, with the Department of Homeland Security (DHS) alleging that some of the targeted subjects are believed to be involved in drug trafficking and distribution, weapons crimes, and immigration violators. Agents rappelled in from helicopters. They came down from helicopters, broke down doors, used flashbangs, tore tenants from their units, from their apartments, and detained several people, including numerous US citizens, for hours before leaving the building ravaged, because they messed up the building, they tore it up, according to multiple reports. Patricia Fisher, who lives in the building, told AB7 Chicago 7 that ICE agents forced everyone out and only asked questions later. Fisher said she was handcuffed and questioned before being released at around 3 a.m. The officers, she noted, just treated us like we were nothing, and it was scary because I never had a gun in my face. Another ABC7 interviewee ducked upon hearing flashbangs detonate and was then distressed by the sight of children detained. They was bringing the kids down too and had them zipped tied to each other. Oh, that's even worse, pardon me. That's all I kept asking. What is the morality? Where's the human? One of them literally laughed. He was standing right there. He said, "Fuck them keys." And yes, I said it that way for emphasis. Now, zip tie is something you use to hold objects together, not humans. Not human hands, not human wrists, any other part of a human. A witness of the same name told and I know they've used it in the past, but no, it's rough to use it on human skin. A witness of the same name told the Chicago Sun-Times it was heartbreaking to see kids coming out butt naked, as in fully naked, and taken from their mothers. What about taken from their fathers? Oh wait, most of the time the father is either working away because the mother's demands, or he's denied custody, by the mother. She typically gets prime custody. Anyway, witness Darrell Ballard recalled seeing the agents use a, quote, big 15-inch saw, unquote, to cut down the fence. I'm not going to start doing these quotations. We're under siege, he said. We're being invaded by our own military residents. So basically, those who lived at the apartment complex are rightfully complaining about how ICE went in. They terrorized the people, destroyed their living space, used zip tie even on children, loaded them into, packed them into the back of these U-Haul vans. These are the sort of vans they use. These are sort of vans that ICE use. These undercover U-Haul vans. Resident Roger Johnson told Block Club Chicago that he heard people drop on the roof before his door was kicked in by agents, and he was packed into a van for what seemed like hours without being told why he was detained. I asked agents why they were holding me if I was an American citizen, and they said I had to wait until they looked me up. Johnson told the Sun-Times. I asked if they had a warrant, and I asked for a lawyer. They never brought one. Agents also reportedly left tenants' doors flung open, so that's a security issue. Resident Dan Jones, the Sun-Times reports, returned to his apartment to find all his electronics and furniture missing. So this resident, Dan Jones, who lived, one who lived at that apartment complex, because of what ICE did, some people stole his shit, and all of his clothes and shoes thrown on the floor. He said he came back to his apartment to find all his electronics and furniture missing, and all of his clothes and shoes thrown on the floor. So he had stuff stolen of his. The following day, reports described the building's hallways as strewn with toys, shoes and food, with doors blown off their hinges and holes left in walls. In one room per Block Club Chicago, zip ties sat on the floor beside bloodstains and baby shoes. Gregory Bovino, a Border Patrol commander at large, told News Nation, which embedded with the federal agents for the operation, that it went very smoothly. Absolute bullshit. What was so smooth about terrorizing people and destroying their living space? There's basically a bunch of articles saying the same things. Raw story, it was heartbreaking. Naked zip-tied children dragged from homes in surreal ICE raid by Brad Reed. Common Dreams, October 2nd, 2025. Just hours after President Donald Trump said U.S. soldiers should use American cities as training grounds, federal law enforcement officials on Tuesday night descended upon an apartment complex in Chicago where witnesses say they broke down residents' doors, smashed furniture and belongings, and dragged dozens of them, including children, into U-Haul vans, those vans I showed earlier. Local resident Roderick Johnson, who lives in the building raided by ICE agents, told the Chicago Sun-Times that federal officials broke down his door, put him in zip ties, and kept him detained outside the building for 3 hours before letting him go. I asked agents why they were holding me if I was an American citizen, and they said I had to wait until they locked me up. He told the paper. I asked if they had a warrant, and I asked for a lawyer. They never brought one. Patricia Fisher, who also lives in the building, backed up Johnson's account, and said that agents forcibly removed all residents from their homes, no matter what their legal status was. Like if they were legal citizens, if they were in the country legally, or if they were in the country illegally. They just treated us like we were nothing, she told local news station ABC 7 Chicago. They like piling us all up in the back on the other side. And it wasn't no room to move nowhere. Ebony Street's Watson, who lives across the street from the raided building, told the Chicago Sun-Times that she saw children, some of whom weren't even wearing clothes, dragged out of the building by ICE agents and then placed into U-Haul vans. It was heartbreaking to watch, she said. Even if you're not a mother, seeing kids coming out butt naked and taken from their mothers, it was horrible. Look, it's horrible for anyone to hear of that, not just mothers, so let's not even. Watson also said that it appeared the federal agents had ransacked the building during the raid. They messed it up, the ICE agents. Stuff was everywhere, she said. You could see people's birth certificates, like people's, legal government documents and all that. And papers thrown all over. Water was leaking into the hallway. It was wicked crazy. Basically, ICE fucked up their living space. Dan Jones, a resident of the building, told the Chicago Sun-Times that he returned from work on Wednesday to find that several of his belongings, including electronics and furniture, were missing from his apartment, and that all of his clothes had been strewn across the floor. He said that he asked the Chicago Police Department for any information about what happened to his belongings in the wake of the ICE raid, but has so far gotten no response. I'm pissed off, Johns told the paper. I feel defeated because the authorities aren't doing anything. Darrell Ballard, who witnessed the raid, who saw the raid going on, told ABC7 Chicago that it felt more like a military operation than law enforcement. We're under siege, he said. We're being invaded by our own military. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, said that 37 people were arrested during the raid, and it claimed some of them are believed to be involved in drug trafficking and distribution, weapon crimes, and immigration violators. American Immigration Council fellow Aaron Reichlin Melnick, sorry if I said the name wrong, said in a Thursday social media post that the raid represented a surreal moment for America that was a clear violation of residents' civil liberties. Needless to say, if the normal police ever pulled something like this, pulling every single person out of an apartment building and handcuffing them to run warrant checks, they would be sued into oblivion, he observed. Yet ICE is going to get away with it entirely. Reichlin Melnick also said that even if the agents had a valid warrant to enter the apartment complex, it was highly unlikely that warrant would extend to removing every single resident there. I am deeply skeptical that the warrant allowed them to smash down every door and arrest every person in the building, he wrote. My gut says they went far beyond the warrant. Yeah, they overdid it. Oh yeah, residents, at that South Shore apartment complex returned to the ransacking of that ICE did to their living space. South Shore, so this is what they call a block club Chicago. South Shore residents returned to ransacked apartments, and it's put up October 2nd, 2025. I'm just gonna jump a bit. Federal agents pounded on the door. Okay. There was a man named Dan. Federal agents pounded on the door of his South Shore apartment about 2 a.m. Tuesday. I told them they must have the wrong apartment, the man said, but armed agents busted open many doors after arriving in U-Haul trucks to raid the 100-unit apartment building at 700S South Shore Drive. They woke up residents to handcuff them with zip ties and led them into unmarked vans, those U-Haul vans, those undercover U-Haul vans. I jump a little bit. They didn't tell me why I was being detained, Johnson said. They left people's doors open, firearms, money, whatever, right there in the open. So that stuff could easily be stolen. And there were those who had their stuff stolen. Okay, the report didn't mention women and children appeared to be among the detained, said Brandon Lee, a spokesman with the Illinois Coalition for Immigration Refugee Rights. Organizers worry many people were taken without warrants. I was trying to protect myself, he said. My nerves were shook. By Wednesday afternoon, the building appeared largely abandoned by residents. Dan Jones stood outside with police officers to file a report after his valuables from his mattress and iPad down to his air fryer was stolen after agents broke his door. Okay, but basically, I'm gonna leave it there and just get what the Apocrypha says. Second address 16. It's towards the end of it. Second address, chapter 16. 71 through 2. They shall be mad like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord, for they shall waste, take away their goods, and cast them out of their houses, and all that.